There is a moment, frozen in time, that exists on a server somewhere in Bulgaria. It's grainy, silent, and captured from the unblinking eye of a security camera. The timestamp reads July 8th, 2014. The location is Varna Airport, a sterile, modern gateway to the Black Sea coast. In the footage, a young man appears. He is tall and slim, with sandy blonde hair. He wears a simple yellow t-shirt and denim shorts. He isn't walking. He is running. Not jogging for a flight, but sprinting with a desperate, primal urgency. He bursts through the terminal doors, past luggage trolleys and confused travelers, his face a mask of pure terror. He leaves everything behind. In an examination room inside the airport, his wallet, his passport, and his mobile phone sit abandoned on a table. His backpack, containing all his worldly possessions for this trip, lies on the floor. He has no money, no identification, no way to call for help. He has nothing but the clothes on his back and the invisible terror that propels him forward. He runs across the paved forecourt, his long legs eating up the ground. He reaches the airport's perimeter, a formidable 2.5-meter high fence topped with barbed wire. Without breaking stride, he scrambles up and over it, an act of astonishing, adrenaline-fueled athleticism. And then he drops down on the other side, into a sea of green and gold. A vast, dense field of sunflowers, their heavy heads all turned towards the sun, standing like a silent, waiting audience. He disappears into the thicket of stalks and leaves. The camera records for a few more seconds. The sunflowers sway gently in the summer breeze. Nothing else moves. The man is gone. This is the last confirmed sighting of Lars Mittank. He ran from something inside that airport, something so terrifying that vanishing into the wilderness, with absolutely nothing, seemed like the only sane choice. But the question that haunts investigators, his family, and a generation of online sleuths is not just where he went. It is what he was running from. The story of Lars Mittank's disappearance doesn't begin in fear. It begins, as so many tragedies do, in joy. It begins with the simple, timeless ritual of a summer holiday. In the early summer of 2014, Lars was 28 years old. He lived a quiet, unremarkable life in Marne, a small town in northern Germany near the coast of the North Sea. By all accounts, he was a gentle and well-liked man. He worked a steady job as an engineer at a local power plant. He had a long-term girlfriend he adored and a close, loving relationship with his parents, Sandra and Wilhelm. He was a passionate supporter of the Werder Bremen football club, a loyalty that would, in a strange and catastrophic way, set the stage for his own vanishing. He was not a seasoned world traveler. He was not a thrill seeker or a risk taker. He was a homebody, a man content with the familiar comforts of his life. But that July, he and a group of 5 of his oldest friends decided to break the routine. week-long trip to Golden Sands, Bulgaria. Golden Sands is a resort town purpose-built for excess. It's a sprawling complex of hotels, bars, and casinos clinging to the Black Sea coast, a place where the sun is hot, the alcohol is cheap, and inhibitions are expected to be left at the airport. For thousands of young Europeans, it's a rite of passage, a week of hedonistic, sun-drenched escape. For Lars and his friends, it was supposed to be a week of football, beaches, and easy camaraderie. They arrived on June 30th and settled into the HVD Viva Club Hotel. The first few days unfolded exactly as planned. They swam in the sea, drank beer in the waterfront bars, and watched the World Cup matches that were being played out in Brazil. Photos from the trip show Lars smiling, tan, and relaxed. He is indistinguishable from any other tourist, enjoying a brief reprieve from ordinary life. There is no hint of the darkness to come, no shadow of the fear that would soon consume him. The fracture in their perfect holiday occurred on the evening of Saturday, July 5th. It was a small thing, a stupid argument that could have happened in any bar, in any city in the world. Lars was watching a football match in a local pub. As a die-hard Werder Bremen fan, he found himself in a minor disagreement with a group of other German tourists who were supporters of the rival club, Bayern Munich. According to his friends, the argument was trivial and quickly forgotten. Later that night, the groups went their separate ways. Lars's friends, wanting to grab a late-night snack, headed to a McDonald's. Lars, for reasons unknown, stayed behind. When he eventually left the bar to meet them, he encountered the same group of Bayern Munich fans. This time, the encounter was not verbal. One of the men, without warning, struck Lars hard in the side of the head. The blow was powerful enough to rupture his left eardrum and possibly damage his jaw. By the time his friends found him, the altercation was over. His attackers were gone. Lars was shaken and in pain, but he downplayed the incident. It was a senseless act of holiday violence, ugly but seemingly contained. He had a painful injury, but he was alive. They had 2 more days until their flight home. The worst, they all believed, was over. They were wrong. The worst had just begun. The blow to his head had set in motion a chain of events that would lead him from a state of mild concussion to one of all-consuming paranoia, culminating in that final, desperate sprint into oblivion. The flight was scheduled for Monday, July 7th. On the morning of the departure, Lars's ear was still causing him significant pain, and he was experiencing hearing loss on his left side. Worried about the potential damage from the change in air pressure during the flight, he visited a local doctor. The diagnosis was swift: a perforated eardrum. The doctor's advice was unequivocal. He was not to fly. The risk of permanent damage was too great. He prescribed an antibiotic, cefuroxime 500 mg, to prevent infection, and told Lars he needed to stay behind and let the injury heal. The decision split the group. His friends had jobs to return to, lives to resume. Reluctantly, they agreed to fly home as planned while Lars stayed behind. It was a practical, sensible choice. Lars assured them he would be fine. He would take a bus back to Germany in a day or two. He was a grown man, and this was a simple medical delay. They said their goodbyes at the hotel, promising to keep in touch. As they headed to Varna airport, they had no way of knowing they would never see their friend again. Now Lars was truly alone. He was injured in a foreign country where he didn't speak the language, and staying in a resort town that was rapidly emptying of its familiar faces. He checked out of the large, bustling Viva Club hotel and moved to a cheaper, more isolated establishment called the Hotel Color. The name was ironic. It was a drab, budget hotel far from the vibrant tourist center. It was here, in the solitude of his new room, that the fear began to take root. His behavior grew increasingly bizarre. That night, he made the first of a series of frantic, whispered phone calls to his mother, Sandra, back in Germany. The easygoing, level-headed son she knew was gone. In his place was a man seized by a suffocating paranoia. He told her he felt unsafe. He didn't trust the hotel. He claimed that 4 men were following him, that they wanted to rob him or kill him. He wouldn't say who they were or why they would be after him. He just repeated that he was in danger. During one call, he whispered that he had managed to escape them and was hiding. He told her she needed to cancel his credit cards immediately. Sandra, thousands of kilometers away, was terrified and confused. She tried to calm him, to understand what was happening. Was this related to the fight? Were the men who attacked him back? Lars couldn't give her a clear answer. His thoughts were fragmented, his fear palpable even through the distorted connection of an international call. He mentioned the antibiotic the doctor had given him, cefuroxime 500. "What is this?" he asked his mother, his voice laced with suspicion. He wanted her to research it. He seemed to believe the medication itself might be part of the plot against him, a poison or a drug meant to disorient him. Sandra looked it up. It was a standard, common antibiotic, but her reassurance did nothing to quell his growing terror. Later that night, he called again. He was whispering so faintly she could barely hear him. He said the 4 men were trying to get into his hotel room. He told her he was hiding under the bed. The call cut out. The sun rose on Tuesday, July 8th. At some point in the pre-dawn hours, Lars fled the Hotel Color. He left in such a hurry that he abandoned some of his luggage. He walked out into the still dark streets of Golden Sands and hailed a taxi. His destination, Varna Airport. He was desperate to get home. The taxi driver who picked him up would later describe his passenger as being in a state of extreme agitation. His eyes were wide, his pupils dilated. He seemed panicked. When they arrived at the airport, Lars called his mother one last time. His tone had shifted. He sounded relieved. "I've made it to the airport," he told her. He said he was going to see the airport doctor to get final clearance to fly, and then he would book the next flight to Germany. For a brief, hopeful moment, Sandra Mittank believed the nightmare was over. Her son was in a safe, public place. He was coming home. But the airport, the very symbol of his escape, would become the last place anyone ever saw him. He had not outrun the terror. He had brought it with him. Varna Airport on a Tuesday morning in July is a predictable ecosystem of controlled chaos. Tourists, sunburned and laden with souvenirs, queue at check-in desks. TANI announcements echo through the concourse. Staff in uniforms move with practiced efficiency. It is a place of transit, of rules and procedures. It is the last place one would expect a person to simply dissolve into thin air. After arriving, Lars walked to the airport's medical center. He needed a doctor's note confirming he was fit to fly. The physician on duty was Dr. Kostov. By his account, when Lars first entered the examination room, he appeared nervous but was coherent. He explained his situation, the ruptured eardrum, the need for medical clearance. Dr. Kostov began a routine examination. It was at this point that the fragile thread of Lars's composure snapped completely. Another man entered the medical office. The man's identity has been a subject of debate, but he was most likely an airport construction worker or a police officer, dressed in a uniform. He was there for a reason entirely unrelated to Lars. He simply needed to speak with the doctor. But Lars didn't see a worker. He saw a threat. The sight of the uniform seemed to trigger an explosive psychological reaction. His body went rigid. According to Dr. Kostov, Lars began to tremble. "I don't want to die here," he mumbled, his voice shaking. "I have to get out of here." Before Dr. Kostov or the other man could react, Lars bolted. He shot up from his chair and scrambled out of the examination room, leaving everything behind. His wallet, heavy with cash and cards. His passport, the key to his escape. His mobile phone, his only link to his family. His entire backpack. All of it was left on the floor as if it were on fire. This is the moment the security cameras picked him up. The silent, ghostly figure sprinting through the polished halls of the terminal. He doesn't look back. He isn't checking to see if he's being followed. He is running from a phantom that only he can see. The footage shows him bursting out of the main entrance and into the bright Bulgarian sunshine. He runs past the taxi rank where he had arrived just an hour earlier. He crosses the road and heads directly for the airport's perimeter fence. It is a formidable barrier, over 8 feet high and crowned with sharpened wire, designed to keep people out. Lars Mittank scaled it to get in. With a surge of desperate strength, he hauled himself up and over the wire, dropping into the dense, uncultivated land that bordered the airport grounds. He landed in a vast field of sunflowers, at that time of year tall enough to conceal a grown man. The thick green stalks and heavy yellow heads closed in around him, and he was gone. The initial response was one of confusion, not alarm. To the airport staff who witnessed it, it was the bizarre act of a disturbed individual. Airport police were notified, but there was no immediate, large-scale search. The field was enormous, stretching for several square kilometers, bordering a major highway and wild, unmanaged woodland. A search would be a massive undertaking. And besides, Lars was an adult. He had committed no crime other than trespassing. When his family couldn't reach him, panic set in. Sandra Mittank, armed with the terrifying memory of her son's last calls, flew to Bulgaria. She hired a private investigator, and with him retraced Lars's final, frantic steps. They searched the hotel color. They spoke to Dr. Kostov. They watched the chilling security footage over and over again, searching for a clue they might have missed. The Bulgarian police, now treating it as a missing person case, conducted a search of the sunflower field. They used thermal imaging cameras and sniffer dogs. The summer heat was oppressive, the terrain difficult. The sunflowers, which had concealed his entrance, now seemed to guard his secret. The search yielded nothing. Not a shoe, not a piece of torn clothing, not a single trace of Lars Mittank. The investigation stalled almost immediately, collapsing into a vortex of unanswered questions and competing theories. The most straightforward explanation centered on his head injury. A severe blow to the ear, causing a ruptured eardrum, could also have resulted in an undiagnosed concussion. Traumatic brain injuries can, in some cases, trigger acute paranoia, confusion, and psychosis. Perhaps the entire narrative of the four men was a delusion brought on by a damaged brain. Then there was the medication. While cefuroxime is a common antibiotic, rare neuropsychiatric side effects have been reported, including anxiety, hallucinations, and paranoia. Lars's own suspicion of the drug, expressed to his mother, lends a chilling credibility to this theory. Could a standard prescription have reacted with his brain chemistry, or combined with his injury, to create a perfect storm of terror? A darker theory suggests that the threat was real. Golden Sands, like many tourist hotspots, has a known underbelly of organized crime. Is it possible that the football argument was a pretext for something more sinister? Did Lars witness a crime, a drug deal, an assault, and become a target? This would explain his genuine fear, but it fails to account for his actions at the airport. Why would someone running from real, professional criminals abandon their passport, money, and phone at the final hurdle of their escape? Every lead turned into a dead end. Investigators could find no evidence of anyone threatening or pursuing Lars at the hotel color. CCTV footage from the hotel was inconclusive. No one at the airport saw anyone chasing him. The mysterious man in the doctor's office was identified as a harmless airport employee. The four men he described to his mother seemed to have no existence outside of his own terrified mind. The case was a paradox. It was a disappearance with 1,000 witnesses captured on camera, yet its central cause remained a complete mystery. He vanished in plain sight. In the years since July 8th, 2014, Lars Mittank has become a ghost, a digital ghost haunting the internet. The security footage of his final moments went viral, transforming a private family tragedy into a global online obsession. He became the most famous missing person on YouTube. Countless videos, podcasts, and Reddit threads have analyzed the footage frame by frame, debating theories and searching for clues. This internet fame has been both a blessing and a curse for his family. It has kept his story alive, ensuring he is never forgotten. But it has also generated a cruel and constant stream of false hope. Sightings have been reported from all over the world. A truck driver in Bulgaria claimed he picked up a disoriented hitchhiker matching Lars's description weeks after his disappearance. The man was reportedly wandering aimlessly, with no memory of who he was. The lead went nowhere. In 2016, a photograph of a homeless man with a striking resemblance to Lars surfaced in Porto Velho, Brazil. The image spread like wildfire, convincing many that he had been found. DNA tests eventually, and heartbreakingly, proved it was not him. For his mother, Sandra, the search has never ended. She maintains the Find It Lars Mittank, Find Lars Mittank Facebook page, a hub for the community of strangers invested in her son's fate. She meticulously follows up on every tip, no matter how outlandish. She has returned to Bulgaria multiple times, walking the perimeter of the sunflower field, posting flyers, and pleading with anyone who might know something. It is a purgatory of hope and despair, a life suspended on a single, agonizing question. What became of Lars after he ran into that field? Did he succumb to the elements, his body lost forever in the dense, wild landscape? Did he suffer a medical emergency, a consequence of his injury and his panic? Or did he encounter someone in those fields, the very people he was trying to escape, or someone else entirely? Some speculate that he may be alive, living off the grid with profound amnesia, a man without a past. It is a comforting thought, a sliver of hope that one day he might be found, but it is a hope that dwindles with each passing year. The sunflower field at Varna Airport is now a landmark of sorrow. The sunflowers grow and die with the seasons, their bright faces a stark contrast to the dark mystery they hold. They stand as a silent, impenetrable wall between the known and the unknown, between the last time Lars Mittank was seen and the vast, empty silence that followed. His story is a chilling modern fable about the fragility of the human mind. It reminds us that the line between reality and paranoia can be terrifyingly thin, and that sometimes the most frightening monsters are the ones we cannot see. The terror that drove Lars Mittank to sprint over a barbed wire fence and vanish from the face of the earth may have been born from a blow to the head, a chemical reaction, or a genuine mortal threat. We may never know. All that remains is the grainy footage, the echo of a whispered, frightened phone call, and the haunting image of a young man running, forever running, into a field of silent, watching sunflowers. The trail for this case ends here, but the questions remain. If you have a theory, leave it in the comments. To join the investigation on our next unsolved mystery, subscribe to No Trace.